What's going on, guys? Welcome back to SwampCast, man. I'm here with EJ. It's Logan. Today we're gonna be diving into the Heisman race. Obviously, we usually have our actual scheduled episode or big episodes that we do weekly, but it's gonna be kind of a mini pod session here. We're gonna be diving into the Heisman race, who we think should win, who we think might win instead, and dive through some of the stats. Obviously, EJ, listen, you've been into football a lot longer than me. For me, it's the best Heisman race I've ever seen. I mean, it is unbelievable. You have four guys here that could win the Heisman Trophy, and I would not be mad. It's unbelievable. So, obviously, you've seen a lot more. What do you think about this year's Heisman race, man? Am I just crazy, or is that a fact?
Well, it's always good to be a little crazy, right? No, I think you're right. I think what the thing I love about these four candidates are we can all genuinely say they are really good football players, and that's the spirit of the award. It's supposed to go to not just the best, the quarterback on the best team. It's supposed to go to the best overall player, and that's what I really see when I see these four finalists. And so I'm hoping that it's going to continue to be that way in the future. But man, these four candidates, it's like it's gonna be like uh uh I mean pins and needles trying to figure out who's gonna win this thing.
Oh, no question. It's unbelievable, man. So let's go through the four candidates. We have, of course, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty. Is that how I say his name? Is it Genty?
I say Genty, yeah.
Genty. Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward are the four guys here. The funniest part is I was looking at their strength of schedule. Out of all these guys, none of them have played anybody. It's very. I mean, obviously you have you got Dylan Gabriel playing against Penn or not. Penn State or not Penn State.
Well, he played
Penn
yeah, he
State in
played
the
Penn
conference
State
championship.
and
Sorry.
yeah.
So that's a really good defense. That front four they have, that front seven they have is unbelievable, man. Penn State's a good little football team, and if they play like how they played against Oregon, I think they have a chance to make it all the way to the national championship, or at least contend there in the Final Four. So I really like that Penn State team. So that was a really good job by Dylan Gabriel, really balling out in that game. But other than that, though, they have the hardest schedule. So let me read out these strength of schedules of all these
Oh,
guys for
okay.
you. So Oregon has the 42nd strength of schedule. That's the hardest schedule, I guess, out of all these guys. So you got Oregon at 42nd. You got Miami at 59. You got Colorado at 61st, and then Boise State at 78th strength of schedule. So obviously no one jumps out as, oh wow, they have the 10th hardest schedule in the country. You know what I mean? They put up those stats, they deserve it. It's really like they
Hmm.
all had some tough games here and there, but Boise State really obviously is the outlier here, being all the way at close to 80th in the country. That's not a big point, I guess, that you can point to, or a big factor for this decision for me. Just because nobody has really played any significant competition consistently throughout the whole year. Uh, Except for really Oregon, I guess you can point to being the closest to that. But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through our four guys. We're going to talk about their stats, why they're ranked here, their contribution to the football team. Because I will say, I think there's guys on this list of these four that are just an asset to the football team. And then there's guys on this list that are the football team. They're the ones that won them games, carried them. And there's a couple guys on here that did do that. So obviously that's a big factor we got to win. So we'll get into all that. But EJ, anything else you want to mention before we do dive into the top four here?
No, I think we're good. Let's do it.
All right. Oh, by the way, we're watching the SEC schedule release. We have Texas week 6. The front 6 games that we have next year is unbelievable, dude. This is crazy. Oh my God, they hate the Florida Gators. Jesus. Anyway, so yeah, let's go dive into this top four here. EJ, you go first with your number 4 pick for the Heisman race.
All right, so my number four pick, and just so everyone knows, the all four of these players, we Logan and I look at PFF, and we're player grades and all that. This has got to be the first time that all candidates were a 90 on offense and a 90 in their particular specialty. So these are all elite players. Um, so my number 4 is going to be Dylan Gabriel from Oregon, the quarterback from Oregon.
I
Um,
have him at number 4 too, so we could talk about it together. Yeah,
oh,
yeah, it's perfect.
perfect,
It's great.
wonderful. So I've got him on 462 pass attempts, 3,558 yards. It's 8.8 yards per attempt. That's not like elite, but then again, they do utilize the pass game a lot to to as a running. He's got 192 rush yards. So his run grade on PFF is 64.9. So it's not great, but he's got a 90.4 total offense grade and a 90.1 pass grade. He's got a 28-6 touchdown to interception ratio, 73% pass completion. In the championship game, I was waiting for kind of like this was a Heisman moment for Dylan Gabriel. I don't know if I really got it. He I we got a couple from Aller, but he was 22 out of 32, 283 yards. He did have 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, and 17 rush yards. So that was a pretty great performance. Um,
Against that Penn State defense for sure.
Against a really good Penn State defense. So he's number 4 for me. I think when you look at the talent around him, the defense plays really well. And Dylan Gabriel has been a great player at multiple different stops. Um, it's hard for me to put him above these other guys that have been at their, um, well, maybe the top 2, but we'll get to that. But Logan, what do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, it's rare to see a guy that's this great at like 3 different stops, right? UCF, Oklahoma, and then now at Oregon. You did see something similar with Caleb Williams, obviously at Oklahoma, then followed Lincoln Riley over to USC and played pretty well. Won a Heisman there, obviously. Pretty well is kind of an understatement, but yeah, you see right here with Dylan Gabriel, man. A guy who's always been an incredible quarterback, one of the best in the country all his years in college. And yeah, like you said, I think the reason I put him at 4 is because the other 3 guys above him, I would say, are the glue of the football team. You know what I'm saying? They really they're either the football team or they're the guy that really keeps them together. They have that big leadership role. And, I haven't really followed
I can see
Oregon
that.
too much this year, but but from what it looks like is he's not that standout guy on the football team. You know what I mean? I mean, he has great receivers. He has a great line. Early on in the year, the offensive line struggled a little bit, but for the majority of the season, they really protected him well. I think it's 13 sacks on the year. If you take away those first 2 games, though, with the 3 and 4 sacks, which is 7, then you're looking at 6 sacks on the whole season, which is pretty good
Yeah.
protecting your quarterback. He is pretty mobile in the back, so he did do a really good job of escaping and obviously avoiding a lot of sacks as well. But yeah, the one thing that stands out about Dylan Gabriel that I would say makes him a great player is his football IQ. This guy's like, how old is he? What is he, like 28 now? He's older, so he's seen a lot of the football game, right? The game of football, and his football IQ is extremely high. So I think NFL teams are really going to look at that, and that's why his draft stock is very high. Also, a very quick release. When he throws the ball, it's a beautiful ball, dude. Like his release is
Yeah.
so fast. It's never wobbly. It's always a spiral. It's and his arm strength, his accuracy. He has a lot of great guys on the outside. But what really surprises me and amazes me with his game, his gameplay is he distributes the ball extremely well to those guys. You know what I'm saying? He gets everyone involved. And yeah, I mean, it he did struggle a little bit in some games. I would say one being Michigan State. Another one being the
Mm.
first game of the year against Idaho. He did throw for 380 yards in that game, but it was a lot of after the yard, rack yards for the receivers there, where he was just kind of distributing on these quick screens, quick slants, things like that, which he did do throughout most of the year. But the Michigan State game was kind of in the middle of the season, not a great one for him. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 62% completion percentage. But other than that, though, bounced back with a great win against Ohio State, and I would say an all-time classic win, 32-31. So yeah, I mean, listen, a guy that's been pretty consistent all year. He's just not that impact player on the level of these guys that I placed ahead of him. So that's why he's 4. But
That's it.
yes, sir.
That's
Uh,
it.
Number 3. I'm assuming we have the same guy for number 3. At least for me, it's going to be Cam Ward out of Miami. What about you?
Cam Ward from Miami. Cam Warding.
There you go. Yes, sir. The transfer from Washington State, man. Air raid guy over there. Big guy in the portal. Florida State really, really wanted him, and Miami stole him right at the last second with that money. Yeah, I mean, Cam Ward, this guy, I would say that Miami would probably be like 7-5 without Cam Ward at quarterback. I mean, this guy has not only been super consistent all year, but has just been so clutch in these big moments. Like, I mean, how many drives, game-winning drives, has Cam Ward scored on? Right? Like, I feel like there's at least 3-4 games I can think of right now that it literally came down to the last drive and he scored. I mean, you look at the Virginia Tech game, the Cal game, the Louisville game, the Duke game. It's insane, man. How just clutch he was in some of these moments. The one thing I will say is because he plays so much hero ball, he can't put the ball into harm's way at certain times. He did that quite a bit in the Virginia Tech game. I remember watching that one. But I mean, hey, you have to play hero ball when you really don't have a lot of help, and this guy carried this football team all the way. Only thing you can say is that it's a very easy schedule. It being the 60th hardest schedule in college football. So he wasn't really tested too much. But I mean, you still got to give this guy credit for carrying this football team on his back.
Yeah, early season I had him at number 1, but they were undefeated, and honestly, that's really why he dropped to 3rd because they lost a couple of games, and the crazy thing, his worst game according to PFF, believe it or not, was Florida State, which is kind of weird, but it makes sense because it was a lot closer than what we thought. His second to the worst game was Georgia Tech. Um, the Syracuse game was one of his better games. Technically, it was his best game of the season.
Yeah, he played well.
The Syracuse game, he played really, really well. He threw for over 4,100 yards this year on 532
Jeez.
attempts, which is insane. A 36-7 touchdown to interception ratio. Um, and he had 196 yards rushing and a 67% pass completion average. When you look at he started out at Division Two or FCS Incarnate Word. Then he transferred up to Washington State, where he's there for 2 years. Didn't have a great first year at Washington State, but then had a phenomenal second year, and he became like the most heralded transfer. And we coined the whole um uh what is the adage? We're Cam Warding. It's kind of like when you have to do everything yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Like you said, the hero ball. Um, I just think that in a couple of those games, in the Syracuse game and in the Georgia Tech game in particular, Miami's offensive line just was not able to hold up. Georgia Tech and Syracuse got a lot of pressure on him, and Miami stopped running the ball. And I think if you just don't run the ball to complement Cam Ward's passing ability, you're eventually going to get caught and you're eventually going to make just one too many mistakes that's going to cost you the game. And that's really what cost them those wins and ultimately I think his spot in the top 2.
Yeah. No, I remember you had him at number 1 when we did our Heisman kind of predictions in the middle of the season. I think I had Ashton Jeanty up there at the number 1 spot. So we'll see if that still holds. But yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, man. These other 2 guys, it's not that Cam, like, any other year, any of these guys would win Heisman. You know what I mean? It's just all of a sudden at the same season, all four of these guys pop off, dude, and go absolutely insane. So yeah, one hell of a year from Cam Ward. Just these other guys, man, he didn't really do anything wrong. It's just you can't really compete with these other dudes. So, that's gonna be our number 3. Now's where it gets fun, man. Now's where it gets a little gritty. We have the top 2. I don't know EJ's pick. He doesn't know mine. We did not talk about it. But let me hear your number 2, EJ. You go first here, man. Let's hear it.
Drum roll, please. My number 2, and it was not easy. It's going to be our second favorite orange and blue running back, Ashton Jeanty.
Me too. I got him at 2 as well.
I think he was at number 3 in my first poll. But I'll tell you why I have him at number 2, and he would have been at number 1 if it weren't for this. But, 2,600 scrimmage yards, 30 total touchdowns, 7.3 yards a carry. That's 7.3 yards a carry when you get 30 carries a game. That's just, who does that? He's Superman. How do you have these legs? But I think you talked about it. The 78th strength of schedule, like the attrition in the SEC, or if you were to play in the Big Ten, of having these running, like you don't see a Ricky Williams or a Ron Dane or a who's the Ohio State running back? He was pretty good, number 13, plays for the Cowboys. You know who I'm talking about?
Oh, are you talking about Zeke?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
he got a
Melvin
million
Gordon.
carries.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's hard to see those types of guys in the major college football because they just get so worn down. And GNT was able to do it because, you don't really play too many great people, but 95.8 offensive grade, 97.5 run grade. The thing that got him was his receiving grade and his pass blocking grade. So when it came down to the Heisman at the running back position, he's a freaking tank when you hand him the ball, but pass blocking for the quarterback and then also receiving out of the backfield he didn't have that to his game, right? And maybe that was by design because they run it 60% of the time, or is it because they'd rather use him on a handoff? So that's kind of what did it for me, because I think those running back like Ricky Williams, I just see I know he was like 1998 or whenever he was, but I just see nightmares of just Texas dropping back, the old line dropping back to get a screen, and he catches that thing and is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have liked to see Boise State do that a little bit more with Gene T, but I think they just wanted to give him more stats with the running. But I think it would have shown his versatility, if he was able to catch more passes.
Yeah, look, if Boise State would have played one more hard team, I think I would give Genty the Heisman. I really would. You know what I mean? But the one good team they played was Oregon, and he did rush for 200 yards, averaged like 8 yards a carry and 3 touchdowns with a long rush of 70. So it's like, yeah, he played a really good defense and rushed a lot, but it's like, I don't know. We don't have a lot of I guess data to pull from. And other than that, you look at the UNLV game, and the first time they played, it was his worst game statistically with only, this is insane. Worst game statistically, but he had 33 carries for 130 yards and 4 yards a carry. But he didn't have an explosive run, right? Only his long was 16 yards in that game. When you look at some of these other games, 70, 68, 64, 75, 77. This is like, you're lucky if you're a running back and you get one explosive run that big in your entire career. or in one season. And this guy was hitting this all season long, dude. I mean,
Yep.
unbelievable. Um, but then he had bounced back in UNLV in that Mountain West Championship game, which was a really fun game to watch. And Boise State had pretty much control that whole entire game. UNLV could not get anything going offensively, but yeah, bounced back with 200 yards on the ground and a 75-yard long run that was unbelievable and clutch at that moment. But yeah, I mean, great season from him, dude. His explosiveness is unbelievable. But like you said, because his explosiveness is something that is generational, it sucks that we didn't see him more out of the backfield. And by the way, those two things that you talked about, pass protection for the quarterback and catching the ball out of the backfield, two things he was probably worst at out of all his stats combined. That's something NFL teams look at, because in the NFL you have to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. You have to be able to pass protect. And if you're going to be if you're going to have any kind of longevity in the NFL, you have to be able to do those two things. But obviously we're talking about college, so I'll try to stay on track here. But those, I do agree. I mean, you look at his receiving, 116 yards on the entire year. With, I mean, zero targets in the Oregon State game, zero targets, against Portland State, against Utah State. So, yeah, I mean, that's something you would like to see a little bit more. Now, if you do go back to 2023, he did have a lot more receptions, 40 receptions for 550 yards. So they did use him more of the backfield.
If he would have did that this year,
doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and it's not that he got less carries, because if you look at the UCF game last year, he had 24 carries and then 5 receptions for 97 yards. So it's like you can get him the ball. He has that explosiveness when it comes to that. It's like, just why not, like you said, incorporate that? I guess because they didn't need to. You know what I mean? But
yeah, they didn't need to.
Yeah, they didn't need to. But in the end, I think it hurt him. And that's why we both have Travis Hunter at the number 1 spot. Now, look, I didn't even know who I was going to put at the number 1 spot until like 10 minutes ago, 15, 20 minutes ago. Yeah, we've been recording now for 20 minutes, but literally 30 minutes ago, I was sitting here and I was like, dude, I don't know who to put at first, second. I don't know what I'm doing. And then you mentioned something earlier, EJ. The PFF grades for Travis Hunter at defensive back is what jumped out at me. I mean, this guy's a 90 in coverage, which you look at the entire country, like, you're lucky if teams have a guy with 90 as their starting quarterback or cornerback. So it's just unbelievable that he's been able to put these kinds of stats, man. Playing both sides of the ball. His worst game, statistically, as a receiver, because defense, he was great pretty much all year. But you look at actually, no, defensively, he didn't have a great game against Kansas State. And as a receiver, he didn't have a great game against Kansas State, which, by the way, is the highest ranked opponent. Now we're at the end of the year on their entire schedule. But that's because he got hurt in that game. He had that shoulder injury, got kicked out. Yeah. So it's like, the one game that you want to kind of point to being, maybe the toughest game of the year, he didn't really do much because he was injured. So, you can't really look at that. But other than that, man, I mean, he's played so well. I got to go to the UCF game when they played UCF here in Orlando, and first game in the bounce house. And yeah, he was just, dude, seeing him in person, some of the plays that he made defensively in that game were unreal. I think he had the first passing reception, a TD reception in that game too, for 6. That was an unbelievable catch. Like, I mean, I feel like you got to give it to him because of those things, man. And even though they didn't have the toughest schedule in the world with the 61st in the country, I mean, dude, I'm probably in my lifetime never going to see a guy like this come back. I mean, last time was Champ Bailey, right? Back in 99, I think. But other than that, we haven't seen a guy like this play. By the way, we've seen guys play on both sides of the ball, but not be this great at both sides of the ball. I mean, even Champ Bailey was nowhere near as effective on both sides of the ball as Travis Hunter is. So, yeah, man, I mean, unbelievable year by him. And I think, even though you feel so bad for GT, because you're probably never going to see a running back do this, at least as consistently as he did. You had guys, like I said, Melvin Gordon, who had like the, 400-yard plus game when he was at Wisconsin. I think it was against Washington, and that's kind of what put him up in the rankings that year. But you're never going to see a guy put up consistently 250 yards a game. It's unbelievable. So you feel bad, but I think Travis Hunter deserves it.
Yeah, I the spirit of it is who's the best player. You can't come out here and play 709 snaps. Okay, people, let's think about that for a second. Let's think about I can't even count to 709. He was out there for 709 snaps.
It's
Like,
insane.
what is it? What is his leg? What are his legs made of? So I mean, you do 92 catches on the year for 1,000 yards. When's the last time Florida had 1,000 yard? Oh God, they're announcing the Tennessee game, which is November 22nd. Wow.
Whoa. That dude, if we got to go to Tennessee next year, not next year, but the year after in November, that's going to be terrible. It's going to be cold. Oh, that sucks, man. And,
And
and we
here's the
play.
thing.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. What sucks? We play Tennessee at home, and then we play FSU the very next week.
That's so weird. So weird.
Our scheduling sucks. Sorry, I know this is
Well,
a
also Kentucky. We play at Kentucky, I believe, right after Texas, if I'm not mistaken. So, love that. Great scheduling by the Florida Gators there. Anyway, back to you,
Travis
EJ.
Hunter. So Travis Hunter, 90 defensive grade, 90.9 coverage grade. This guy had 4 interceptions, 11 passes defended, did 709 snaps. Which has to be like a 61 snaps per game average, which is insane. Like if
Unreal.
you think about that, like the Florida Gators averaged 60 snaps a game, period. He's playing 61 a game on average. Um, uh, so that, along with the several electrifying plays that he's made, catching touchdowns in the corner of the end zone, intercepting passes when it looked like he was completely not even positioned to even defend the pass, he turns around and intercepts the ball. Um, just an incredible player. Came from Jackson State. Went there to follow Coach Prime. That was a huge deal because remember he was originally thinking about going to FSU, but then FSU told him, you can't. You're only gonna play one side of the ball. You're not gonna play both sides." And he was like, "Screw that. I'm going with Coach Prime, who you want to be Deion Sanders is the person who did this originally with the playing both positions. So the only thing I would have liked to see, did Travis Hunter catch any punts?
I
I
don't
don't think
believe
he
so. I
yeah, I don't
would
think he catch.
I wouldn't want to throw him out there. He probably wanted to, but
Yeah.
it's like I don't want to get the
Yeah,
guy
that's what
hurt.
I'm saying. I'm like, I wouldn't want him out because you take a hit, but I'm
Yep.
like, if he would have caught some punts in addition to doing all this,
Unreal.
that would have been just give it to him. Just give it to him at
That's like
midfield,
another
the post
50
game.
snaps on top of that, dude. That's insane.
Just give him the Heisman at midfield. But
Literally.
that's the only thing. Like the whole team is only going to punt like 4 or 5 times a game. So,
Yep.
But anyway, Travis Hunter's gotta be the spirit of it is the best football player. To see what he's done this year with the coverage and the receptions. How many? 92 catches.
Insane.
You got to give it to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, an unbelievable year by Travis Hunter, man. Like I said, you feel bad for all the other guys, but especially Genty, who I mean, they all deserve it. They deserve it. These are two generational players that are in the same year. And by the way, there's been some recent years where it's like, does this guy really deserve it? You know what I mean? Like, did Mac
Right.
Jones really deserve it in 2020? No. Kyle Trask did. That's another story. But it's like, there's some weird ones recently that's like, okay, I don't know how I feel about that. And this one's, or there's been some obvious ones recently, right? But this one's just like, ugh, it's a tough one, man. So, definitely going to be interesting because I feel like it could still go both ways. I think that
Yeah.
the voters could go either way with this, and especially considering it's a bunch of like random media people that have Heisman votes, which is the people that have it's so strange. Like we could get Heisman votes if we wanted to. It's so weird. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how that goes. But And we'll talk about that, of course, on our weekly episodes that we do. We'll get back to the normal schedule on Sunday. The episode will be out later this upcoming Sunday, and we're going to dive into the Heisman talk. We're going to dive into our playoff predictions, all of that fun stuff, man. We're also going to be talking about the Florida Gator Bowl game and a bunch of other bowl games for that week that we'll be talking about. So it can be very fun for sure. Any other thing you want to mention about the Heisman before I say one other thing?
No. We are picking Travis Hunter. We think he's going to pull through and win it. I think that's exactly what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting. And maybe what we should do in this end of the season, drop our Heisman candidate predictions for next year. Get spicy.
DJ, that's my DJ. Yes, sir. Yeah, no, that's true, man. There's some big candidates out there that I can think of right now. Some up and comers I think might make some happen. Sellers and I would say DJ Lagway are probably everyone's top two. But there's some other sneaky ones for sure. I think that'd be fun, dude. Something in the off season to talk about for sure. I think that'd be cool. But one other thing too, we are going to be doing a playoff bracket for SwampCast. I can maybe even throw this in the description, the link into the bracket down below. You guys can join. It's going to be fun. We want to see everyone's picks and see what you guys think is going to go down in this crazy first time ever 12-team playoff. That is an absolute joke. It's going to be great. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, so we want to see you guys' picks. So link will be in the description for that. Definitely join, make a bracket, see what happens. But yeah, anything else you want to say to the amazing people out there?
Yes, join our bracket challenge. It'll be fun. It is an absolute joke the way they do the seedings because they're not true seedings. And I can't wait to see what happens. And here's the thing. Here's the question. We went from the top 4 to this 12. The top 4 would have been Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State. That's the 4. Is it going to end up being that as the final 4? Or which one of y'all are going to pick the upset that's going to take out one of those teams? Because if we end up just getting the final 4, then we might just need to go back to 4, guys. We just might need to save our legs. But they want more money.
No, it's funny. Those are literally the 4 best teams in college football right now. That's the funniest part. It's like those are the 4 best teams. Unbelievable. Our opinions. Listen, we dive into it more on our weekly episodes. They're like 2.5 hours long. But we both are in favor of a 6-team or an 8-team, something that really narrows it down. Because I feel like we talked about once you go outside of the top 7 teams, the statistics drop on those, and you start getting 2-3 lost teams kind of make their way in, and it becomes a joke. So yeah, we definitely want a 6. That's not going to happen though, man. Just get rid of these stupid conference auto bye week thing. It's just stupid. It's dumb. But anyway, appreciate you guys, man. Definitely go to the link in the description down below. Check out the bracket. Subscribe to us. Comment down below who do you think is going to win the Heisman this Saturday. It's going to be amazing. And then go check out, like I said, just even if you're not a Gator fan, even if you're a college football fan, obviously our Gators will not make the playoffs, so we're going to be talking a lot of stuff that's not Florida in these episodes. So definitely go check us out, man. It should be a lot of fun. But we appreciate you guys. See you Sunday, and we'll talk to you soon.